Melo, Tom Hitchcock here. How are you?
Well, thank you. Good to meet you.
Good to meet you again, actually. And I'm going to have to say this because I've just laughed saying your name. so we just had our, it's entirely on me. We had our wires crossed because I had a meeting with someone else also called Melo today. And the meeting was entirely different. It was a different Tom that turned up. And it's completely blown my mind, you know. So honestly, what are the odds on that happening on the same day?
What are the chances? There's very few Melos that I know in the world. There's probably two or three, and you know two, and you're supposed to meet with them today. One in Brazil and one in Australia.
That is it. Well, where's the name from? What's its?
Melo is actually short for Carmelo. Carmelo is an Italian name, and Carmelo often anglicized is Charlie. Often when you're in English-speaking countries, so I'm not really a Charlie. So sort of Melo stuck, and it sort of suits the work that I do, being a mindfulness teacher and mellow out and mellow by name, mellow by nature. So I've always been mellow since primary school, actually. So yeah, that's where it comes from. There are a lot of Brazilian mellows, and there's a lot of Maltese mellows, and usually it derives from Carmelo.
There we are. Good. There we are. And you know what happened? I'll bring that up with the other Melo later. In Brazil, I've spoken with this other Melo before, and he's also quite mellow. He's quite laid back as well. So perhaps it's something in the name, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're not in Brazil, and you're in the Mornington Peninsula, if I heard correctly.
Yes, in Australia, in Melbourne, a little town about 1 hour from the CBD of Melbourne. Little wineries, surf coast, beaches. Nice little place to be.
Yeah, I haven't been there myself. I know people that live down that way, and I hear nothing but good things. But most people know each other and what have you as well.
Yeah,
it's a nice little community. And is that where you hail from?
No, originally from South Australia in Australia. So it's even a smaller town called Adelaide. But then I travelled the world and I went around the planet, and you might talk about it today. I cycled around the world on my mountain bike, as you do, and then I came back to Adelaide and I thought I can't quite live in this little town of Adelaide anymore after seeing the whole planet. So then I moved to Melbourne, and then Melbourne is quite a big population. Well, not compared to European standards, but around 5 million in Melbourne. Quite a busy little buzzy city. And I slowly have been, over the years, squeezing myself further and further away, and now live about an hour, 90 minutes to an hour out of Melbourne. So, yeah, happy to be here.
But they say you do that as we go through life. Is we're born when we're born, and what have you. Then we get this zest for life. We want to go to the big smoke, the bright lights, land of opportunity, and do all these hedonistic things. And then slowly but surely, he starts thinking, no, I've had enough of this, had enough of that, and you start to pull yourself away. And it sounds really boring to a kid who wants to go and do all this stuff, but it's making a bit more sense the older I get now.
Yeah, a bit of space. But I mean, it's always accessible. The city's always accessible, but it's also nice to leave and sort of come back to this quieter place. I've got a big Swiss Shepherd dog named Coda. So I walk Coda along the beach here, and it's just a nice lifestyle surrounded by greenery. My children go to a lovely school. It's got trees everywhere, and almost envious on the school they go to. And you only get that when you move out of the big city.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. You said you were traveling around the world. Again, did I hear correctly, on your bike?
Yes. Cycled around the planet pretty much, or cycled, trekked and traveled, should I say, or whatever was moving, but most of it by bike around the world for about 30,000 kilometers across 5 continents, and had a wow of a time, but also got very sick along the way. I'd had some pretty amazing experiences, including near-death experiences and all those sorts of crazy things that happen, but it shapes who I am today. It's sort of those experiences and those lessons that I learned on the road have taught me many lessons about myself, and I share that and impart that in the work that I do, being a public speaker and keynote speaker, running workshops and programs in many corporate companies. So living by experience and sharing those experiences.
those lived experiences are priceless, and I think when we collect up a good bit, we've survived. We've got almost survivor bias, if you like, you know, on these, and we want to share these with the world with the view of helping others. You know,
Yeah.
that's what a lot of these podcasts are. But you said you had some near-death experiences. Go on, give us some detail.
A few of them happened. Well, first of all, I did catch malaria in Africa, and that was a pretty bad bout of it, which was it was killing people in the village actually that I was staying in. That killed many people, many children, and I had to deal with it there at the place there because I lost like 10 kilos in the matter of like 3 days. I was jaundice orange. I wouldn't even say yellow. I was actually orange. My eyes were red. Lost all my muscle mass. And luckily, while I was there, I thought about flying back to a civilized country like Australia or UK or America to get some treatment. But then I also thought I'm probably going to die on the airplane because I was that weak and I had no strength. I literally took all my strength just to get up and stand up, and then I'd break out in a sweat and I'd fall down again and collapse. So I was that sick. So I thought, well, you know what? I better deal with it here. And if anybody knows about this particular strain of malaria, it's going to be people that are local in the area, because it changes and mutates so much. So luckily I met this Canadian couple that were traveling around at the time. I went to all these bush doctors and whatever medical clinics they had, makeshift medical clinics, and they didn't seem to do anything. But I met these Canadian couple, and they were testing out a particular drug, or semi-synthesized drug, semi-natural, semi-synthesized, on this particular strain of malaria, this exact strain that I had. So I thought I'd give that a shot. And lo and behold, after about 10 days, I slowly started coming good again, and I was able to eat again and keep food in. So a blessing, just to meet that couple there. But I thought I was close to the end there. I thought this is pretty close to death. So that's one, definitely. And there's a few others that involve machine guns in my ribs. There's another one that involves surviving a storm. So we could talk forever. I'm not sure how long your podcast is, but we could talk forever about these. But again, you don't know how strong you are until being strong is your only choice. And you don't know what you need to tap into until you need to tap into those resources.
It's funny you should say that, because I talk about this quite regularly with people that know me well, and we talk about past experiences, and sometimes people are a little bit shocked by, as some of your stories there would be a really good example. It's like something out of a movie, you know, and they're shocked because they kind of talk to me like it's something that I regret, I like, poor you,
Yeah.
And I'm like, not at all. I'm so grateful for those experiences. Because it's taught me where my barriers are. It's one thing saying, if I was at war, I'd be doing this. No, you probably won't, and you don't know. Hopefully you'll never know that one. But it's you learn a lot about yourself, and it's and I actually think it's good for people to go out and have some sort of experiences that you survive, and you can actually learn to know your thresholds,
Learn to know your limits, learn to know your strengths, learn to know what pushes you over the edge, learn to know all these things to get to know yourself on a deeper level, and build up that resilience and build up all those things inside of us. And that translates into also, not just physical near-death experiences, but also, your mental capacity, your mental challenges in the corporate world and your working world, all of those lessons about resilience, rising above adversity, growth mindset, all of these lessons, we've gone through. So it's a great training ground, and sometimes at the time you don't realize it, but afterwards you think a blessing in disguise.
I bet at the time you definitely didn't realize it. You sort of reached out and wanted for your Western comforts, if you like, anything that feels familiar to home, where you felt safe. But then logic prevailed. The flight isn't going to be too kind on you if you survived it, and really the right people were on your doorstep before you actually proved.
Yeah, that's right. And at the time, I was traveling with a Icelandic couple whom I met. Also, one was a doctor, emergency doctor, and one was a researcher. Beautiful people. And they looked at me and said, "You need to do something. You look pretty bad. We need to get something happening." And also, getting that support around you. And that's another thing about traveling and being in crisis situations, so it brings out the best in people, it brings out the worst in people, it helps people come together. And crises are things we can learn from. There's opportunities to grow and learn, but there's also the danger element. And in a way, I actually love that danger element. In a way, I love it when your instincts are on and you have to switch yourself on to these situations, because very often in the modern world, we're just going about our day, and all these primal instincts that we have inside of us, they're just dialed right down. So we need to sort of put ourselves in situations where we're a bit uncomfortable, or traveling in developing countries and some of those challenging countries where there's crime and corruption and all those sort of things can also bring that stuff out in you. So lots of I published a lot of these stories actually in a book. I'm not sure if you saw my notes there, a book called Beating Burnout, Finding Balance, and every chapter starts with one of those stories, and then the lesson that I learned from that story, from that particular experience, and then turning that into a teaching. So if I went through that and survived, and there's got to be a lesson in there, and hopefully I can help other people to impart that knowledge so that they can learn from that, and also learn in their own way. They don't have to go through the situation themselves, but they can learn the lesson without going through it.
Love it. Well, that book just points at exactly the mindset we were talking about before. Let's keep something going. You don't know who's going to pick that book up when we're gone, and they'll pick just that one little thing that will just change their life,
Oh, totally. Yeah. And that's why, the book was born out of a need and desire to help as many people as possible, to beat burnout and find balance in their life, and basically to find that work-life balance. That's what I thought the book was about. But there's so many tools and techniques in there that I get emails from around the world. And in fact, I just got one a few weeks ago from a lovely young girl in India, and she said the book saved her life. Like she actually, whatever was in there, a section around anxiety and overwhelm and whatever tools and techniques she took. So you never know what people grab from there and where they're at. And so my job with the book was to simplify the complex and make it very applicable and implementable, so people could pick it up, read those cool stories and find it interesting, but also walk away with some implementable tools that they can implement immediately into their life. So she obviously did pick that up, and and I've had another email not long ago also from someone going through cancer, difficult cancer diagnosis, and the tools in the book also help them through that challenge there. So it's like,
and these are the ones but all it takes is just one of those scenarios, and it makes the whole activity of making a book worthwhile.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Exactly. And that is like, sometimes you try to measure a book by how many sales it makes or how many awards it's won. It's won 5 awards, by the way, which is great. That's fantastic. And it's done some good global sales. But for me, it's those individual stories that you hear that's like, it's touched someone and met someone on that deeper level. It's like, yeah, that's why I wrote the book.
Love it. So tell us a bit more about what you're doing now then, because I know I've sort of skimmed over that briefly, but I kind of get the feeling that it's a culmination of your world travel, those experiences, what's in that book, and it's now on your day-to-day.
Yeah, so David, what I love about the work is the diversity of people that I work with and clients that I work with. So I work with call myself a mindset and high performance coach, is a title, so to speak, so people can grab onto that. So I teach people growth mindset, high performance, managing stress, managing resilience, and building resilience, all those great tools. And my variety of clients that I work with could be anybody from top CEOs and executives, and coaching them one-on-one, to general managers, to elite athletes, trying to be the best at their craft, to doctors, surgeons, all the different industries of work that you could imagine. So I typically go into workplaces and I run seminars, workshops, programs, and also do some keynote speaking and public speaking. So for me, the broadly that I can stroke this brush, the more people I can reach, and that helps me with my mission. My mission is to help as many people as possible to beat burnout and find balance, or to be the best they can without burning out. So, and whatever that looks like, it could be a 1-hour keynote, it could be a 6-week program, it could be a 6-month program, however it is that I can help people. I'm honored to do that.
So I remember earlier in my career, probably a generation above me, I would say, that burnout was fashionable.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah, or wearing a badge of busyness.
yes, and that's today's version. Yeah, absolutely. So I remember when I don't know, do you know? I don't know if you had this term in Australia, but in the UK, and there's a term, the yuppie. Yeah.
Yeah, yuppie. Yeah,
So
yeah.
you'd have the yuppies lunch and the which doesn't exist because their work is so hard. It's a sign of success, and so that's a slight generation above me. But that was so, and they were burnt out, and that was fashionable. But now you're quite right when you say you're busy, and everyone says they're busy. It's an auto response,
Yeah,
and I'm quite cynical of the auto response as well, to be honest with you.
me too.
You know, but it is, as you quite rightly labelled it, as a badge of honour, and it's such a shame that that's the case. You know, I know if I do say I'm busy, and I am, it's from a place of embarrassment. I want to get some time back. You know.
Yeah, and people want to compete about their busyness. Oh yeah, I'm busy. I worked, so many hours last week, and oh yeah, me too. I worked, 80 hours. Oh no, but I worked 90 hours. It becomes this like competitive busyness. I'm not sure what they're trying to prove, but the end result is burnout at the end of the day.
Mm. Would you say that there's a case for burnout being an epidemic?
Yes, there is, or maybe it's more spoken about and more recognized these days. I think COVID was a big, change and a bit of a point from that point onwards where it affected a lot of people's mental health. So a lot more recognition of burnout was happening through COVID and post-COVID. People's mental health was really affected. I think mental health is being spoken about a bit more, so we're hearing a bit more about it. So especially here in Australia, it is, and I think globally it is. So people are recognizing it more. Epidemic-wise, yes, and we're living in such a fast-paced world. Like we're just always on attitude. We're switched on. We're plugged into devices. We are instantly accessible 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So that doesn't come without any consequences, unfortunately. And stress is one thing. We've always lived with stress, and I think stress is a good thing. We need some stress to drive us, to motivate us, to help us achieve our goals and to get things done. Without stress, we wouldn't do anything. But it's about managing that stress on a daily basis. But these days, we are just under so much pressure and stress and overwhelm and overstimulation. We find it hard to switch off, and that stress is cumulative. And over time, it can lead to burnout.
Absolutely. So that the body doesn't forget, doesn't lose count. That's for sure. We see this a lot. We can see the different types of stresses and how people indicate that's there. And a lot of time people aren't aware of it. They got used to it. It's almost like a high functioning alcoholic or something.
Yeah.
I'm fine, but it's just how they're used to being.
Yeah, the base level of stress is already like quite high, and it shouldn't be. I mean, stress, the stress response, we know the fight and flight response where the body produces adrenaline and cortisol go through the body. You're on this high alert stage. That's good. We need that, but it's not designed to be switched on all the time. It's not designed to be switched on 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's a bit like those. I always use the analogy of those, those NutriBullets. I'm not sure if you have them in the UK. Those smoothie machines. You put all your things in there to oscillate at this very high frequency. But if you leave one of those things on, for more than 2 minutes or 5 minutes, it's going to burn out. It's the same as us. Our stress response is designed to oscillate at this high frequency, but we can't leave it on all the time. We need mechanisms to switch it off. We need mechanisms to slow it down. We need mechanisms, to find that balance and have the ability to self-regulate.
And was there a particular event in your life where that's like, bang, this is what's worked for me. I'm now going to do this as a business. I'm going to make this my livelihood.
A few cumulative sort of evidence that one of the main things that I teach is mindfulness, and one of the main things I teach is some sort of meditation or breathing practices to be able to self-regulate. So that's one of the tools that I use, and I share that with lots of people. So I have definitely over the years had events and incidences that's proved to me that meditation, mindfulness, and connecting with your breath and connecting with yourself can actually save your life. I entered meditation myself 30 plus years ago through martial arts. So I was practicing Shaolin Kung Fu and practicing martial arts, and quite strong at that time, 30 odd years ago, physically strong. But I very quickly realized that the strength and power of the mind was more important, if not as important as the strength and power of the body. So I trained my mind to get stronger. I trained my mind to be able to stay focused, to be in the moment. So it took me years and years of doing that. And then I was tested going back to the bicycle training there that I was doing. So before I actually went on my bike trip, before I actually embarked on it, I put myself in all these different situations on my bike. So I thought I'll go ride my bike out, test out my camping equipment, test out my tent and my cook set and everything. And I put myself in different terrains and different environments, whether it was desert or mountains. And there's one particular storm forecast and for the weekend, on a long weekend, and I decided to try my bike out and all my equipment in this storm and see what it's like. And cut a long story short, I headed out in this storm, and it actually turned out not to be a storm. It was actually like a cyclone. Like it was far more than I thought it was. And I got hit by a tree. My bike actually got hit by a tree because this storm was actually uprooting trees, and this tree knocked my bike over, knocked myself over, and I was bleeding on my leg. My cook set was damaged. So the short version of this story is I was looking around, and there was nowhere externally that I could actually shelter from. There was horizontal rain, lightning, thunder. Just think the worst storm ever. Trees being uprooted, limbs were being fallen everywhere. My fingers were becoming blue. My lips were becoming hypothermic. My lips were turning blue. I was chattering. I was becoming hypothermic. And I thought, there's nowhere externally that I can shelter. The only place that I can shelter is within me. Go inside. So I decided to go inside, and I did some breathing practices, and I actually meditated from dusk all the way through to dawn. So 12 hours of meditation. And to be honest, I felt totally safe, totally calm, totally at peace. Meanwhile, this storm's going all around me, but it really demonstrated to me that we have this strength within us if we tap into it. And you never know when you need that. And we have these resources inside of us. I survived that storm. I fixed my bike up, and I went along my way and continued on. But that was really probably a turning point or an event that made me realize the power of meditation, the power of actually tapping into your breath. And no matter what storm is going on around you, literally or a real storm, you can always tap into those resources inside of you.
I love that, because obviously when the way we look at it, we look external. When you think about what's happening, everything's coming at different angles. You've got the cold, you've got the physical objects, you've got the electricity, you've got everything. There isn't much else left apart from those saber-toothed tigers to really get things going, and you're right, you only have that one option, and that's a fantastic advocacy for that.
Well, I believe if you can take control of your breath, this is quite a big statement here, but if you could take control of your breath in any situation, you can change your physiology and your psychology, and you can get through anything.
Actually, you know what? You're spot on there, because I'll give you an example. I used to be a boxer. In fact, I was asthmatic when I was boxing, and I really struggled when I had my first asthma attack. I had mouth guard in, gloves on my hands. I couldn't breathe, and then someone punching me more when I could breathe less, Yeah. But the issue was that then you go to panic mode, because you're hyperventilating, and it affects everything else. Because of the situation that you're actually in, But I know when I controlled my breathing and I started to master that in those same situations, that event wouldn't spiral out of control,
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're tapping into yourself, and the moment you change your breath physiology, so it's a bit of that fight and flight response. Going back to that primitive response we have with saber-toothed tigers, if we can tell ourselves that we're safe by slowing down our breath, closing our eyes or whatever it is, and just introspecting, it actually changes your physiology and tells you you're safe, and you actually initiate what's called the parasympathetic nervous system, which then initiates the relaxation response. So you can stay calm no matter what's going on around you, whether you're in the boxing ring or not. Like, you can actually stay calm in that moment by changing your breath physiology, as opposed to hyperventilating and holding your breath, which then triggers more stress.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, listen, we've coming to a wrap now, okay, and I know it's a little bit short. That's on me, not you, obviously.
Yeah, that's all right. You got 2 Melos today, so I get it.
I'm not going to get over that one. But anybody listening to this that'd like to make contact with you, what would be the best method for them to reach out to you?
Yeah, I'd say my website is probably the easiest. It's Melo Calarco, my name, MELOCALARCO.com. Pretty easy. I'm sure you might put that in the show notes. But the book is also a good portal. The book also, a great way to learn more about me. If you jump onto my website, melocalarco.com, there's actually a free sample chapter on there. So you can actually download that and have a little look, and some other free resources on there. So that's probably the best. Out of all the social media platforms, probably the one I'm most active on is LinkedIn. I use that most, but I am on Facebook and Instagram if that's what you use. But probably the most active one, if you want some tips and ideas, is on LinkedIn. So please reach out for sure.
Yeah, feel free to add your details into the contacts as well, into the comments, and hopefully people will reach out to you.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Well, listen, thanks again for your time. I really appreciate it, and I enjoyed listening to the stories.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for watching this episode. I hope that you did enjoy it, had lots of takeaways from it. As before, please subscribe below so you can keep on top of any new releases we have. And also, if you would like to have your story told, just reach out with me and I'd love to give you that platform. My best email address is tom@purplepatchconsulting.com. Thank you.